So we have got the green light and we can start. I would like to welcome you all to our webinar, the WoTA Webinar today with the title Tote Integration Across Regions. We say hello and good morning to America. Hello and good day to Europe and Africa, and a good late afternoon and evening to Asia and Australia. A special welcome goes to our 3 new board members in WoTA. Ladies first, welcome Fundi Zitebe from For Racing in South Africa. Fundi is the CEO of For Racing. Welcome also to Jérôme Carus, the CEO and owner of PMC Paris Mutuel Carus in France. Jérôme is one of the greatest experts in horse betting technology. Bienvenue, cher ami. Last but not least, welcome to Juha-Matti Mäkilä from Veikkaus in Finland. Juha is Vice President in Betting Operations in Veikkaus. Terve, Juha. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, some words of introduction to our webinar today with the title Tote Integration Across Regions. Our 4 experts today are Curtis Linnell, the Executive Vice President of the Thoroughbred Racing Protective Bureau in USA, Tallulah Wilson from the UK Tote, and Peter Johansson and Ylva Svensson from ATG Sweden. Today we are going to have a look on the Tote and the Tote systems in the different regions and the impact on our international cooperations. Curtis Linnell will inform in the beginning about the security of Tote betting with the system of wagering analysis and the security platform. And he will report about his experiences in the last 20 years of racing and betting. The queen of international cooperation is for sure the World Pool, and we will several times refer to the World Pool and the related impacts. Tallulah Wilson will report in detail about the World Pool, the history and the results in 2022, the bet types and all around the World Pool. Peter Johansson and Ylva Svensson will give us some insights on big bets, mainly the V75, the flagship of betting in Sweden, and also about the international cooperations and the commingling worldwide, where ATG has a great experience. And they will report also about the Nordic pool, a special way of commingling between the Nordic countries. We start with Curtis Linnell, and before we start, as always, you can raise questions. We will try to answer them during the show if possible. Curtis, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation to present today. This is a very august group, sophisticated individuals. So again, this is my first attendee at a webinars for the World Tote Association. So I appreciate the invitation. Let me just start by, I don't have a formal presentation, but what I have put up is just some PowerPoint slides. I'll lead this in slide view. So this gives you an opportunity to not look at me, which is always a good thing. And we can follow along with the slides. So what I'm going to talk about is our experiences and with Tote security in North America, and how that is applicable in terms of our principles as we deal with international integration across the globe with Tote. So thank you for that. Okay, let's just start. So I'm going to cover some topics and not to put this hammer in, as Hubert said, the last 20 years of my experience with security, because that would be far too much and far too boring for our audience. But let's start with just quickly history in North America. We want to talk about some of the formative experiences that have got us here. Obviously, general principles of tote security. What's our mission statements, and how do we guide ourselves in terms of those principles? We've developed a series or a set of standards, and part of those standards is to codify. So we have brought in all tote companies for a common set of standards for determining tote security and analysis. We've developed a wagering analysis and security platform that we handles everything that we do. It's a constantly evolving platform. I will quickly take you through that and show what we can do for our member associations and how we use that platform to assist us for tote security. There's a series of technical innovations by totes in North America, in the US and Canada, which is important because with those initiatives, at the same time comes the requirement of security, the requirements of not just regulators, but also associations guaranteeing the integrity of their pools and the ability to investigate abnormalities when those do occur, so they can instill public confidence in the betting. And last but not least, a World Pool discussion. I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about World Pool after me, but I'll just touch on that, and perhaps we'll talk about how tote security and the standards that we have developed can fit into the World Pool discussion and going forward. Okay, so that's just very quick. Obviously, tote integration in North America is a story of Intertote Systems Protocol, ITSP. Very quickly, there was limited common pooling for years in various regions in North America. In the US, parimutuel betting is under state law. However, with the passage of the Interstate Horse Racing Act, there was a series of requirements that permitted cross-state betting. Both the regulators and, of course, the horsemen's groups are all cited in this codified law in the US. In Canada, slightly different. Parimutuel betting is under federal law. It's actually under the criminal code. However, provinces taxed betting, taxed parimutuel differently in different provinces and had the tax right in their own jurisdiction. The net result of commingled betting between provinces in Canada was net pool pricing. So Canada and the US developed common interfaces for commingling. First, US tracks and associations bet into Canadian pools. And then as US jurisdictions developed and adopted net pool pricing, it permitted Canadian associations to bet into US pools. Commonly, Canada and US formed common pools, B pools, to take various events through the world, such as Latin American racing, Australian racing, racing from Hong Kong. And that developed a fairly healthy B pool that many other countries joined. So that was the development of a fully integrated market in North America. One of the aberrations of North America is many different tote providers. There's multiple tote sources. And there was a protocol necessary for all those tote sources to join together in a commingled pool, hence the development of ITSP. Obviously 513, 514, the first attempt to bring in other members, other totes around the world was ITSP 6. So a forum was developed to open up ITSP, so any international tote that wanted to use ITSP could actually join a development forum. And we started to meet a number of years ago, first in Tucson and then actually online, to develop ITSP 6, and that has continued on to develop ITSP 7. Again, that's an open protocol that any international tote can join in terms of the discussion and include their particular bet types and their particular needs in ITSP. Let's get to the security point. So first principle, that the host is in control. And typically that means that the same association and the same regulator that hosts the race is also the parimutuel host. And that control rests solely with the host operator, starting obviously by contracts, but also the initial link between guest and host. So takeout rates, betting interest, scratches, and all must be communicated and match the connection to proceed. The host also has the complete ability for final pools for prices and to make races official. So because of this highly integrated environment with very many totes, a typical racetrack in North America will have 50 odd sources, multiple sources coming into every pool. The tote integration was required for codes. And I think everyone on the call is very familiar with this, is source codes, event codes, and customer codes. Every tote is assigned a source. Every parimutuel event, whether that's a direct event or a B event, is assigned an event code. And then every location or account wagering company is assigned a customer code. Those codes are common to everyone in the betting environment. The requirements for codes first started with the TRA 1995 committee, hence the terminology TRA codes. It's not that the TRA owns those codes. Those codes are public source. All those codes are hosted on CRIMS. CRIMS is agreed, California Horse Racing Information Management System. Agreed to host the process for requesting codes, and there's been a high degree of adoption of those codes. Later in that process, the TRPB ourselves came in to approve code requests. So there's a request format right online, and then there's an approval protocol, and each one of those codes passes through the TRPB in order to be published to the website. So there's a high rate, there's some control of what those codes are. Obviously, there's a high rate of compliance. Lots of international organizations, especially event codes, have been published and are on the code list. So, standard development files. We have the common codes, we have a common protocol. What do we do with all this stuff to make sure that we have the type of information that we can effectively have tote security and the type of analysis required? And that's standard development files. Every tote writes to a common set of specifications. And we started with the TRA settlement file. Every location supports the settlement file in a common pool. And that gives the liabilities, the handles and the liabilities at the end of session. Every account wagering company supports the TRA account wagering file. Every association summarizes their handle down to a postal code level. All those files are transmitted to the TRPB directly every 24 hours. The transaction audit file, the largest and most ambitious project in the tote development, occurs immediately at the close of betting. Every pool closure triggers a bet-by-bet detail of a file that's transmitted to the TRPB. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but this is a tremendous ability for host associations and regulators to have visibility on a bet-by-bet level immediately after a race closes. And last but not least, and developed by the Canadian Parimutuel Agency in conjunction with TRA 2020, the committee is a race audit file, reporting your race results, liabilities, and details immediately when the race is official. The last is our current project to date, the race audit file, and we'll be rolling that out extensively to all participants in the Tote network. So our wagering analysis platform. So we take the settlement files and the odds and probables, charts and results, count wagering files, and of course the transaction audit detail, and we warehouse all that information. We run all that data through a series of business rules. And what that does, with addition of obviously human IT, we take the information from the Betfair exchange and database that information. That triggers alerts for any wagering abnormalities, which causes obviously a trigger of analysis and subsequent steps to look at that information. It's not the only thing that causes triggers, but it's the primary process that we go through for each one of the clients and regulators in North America. So in this past year, going to the present time, we have taken that platform and all the various file types from each and every account wagering provider and each and every tote provider, and also the betting exchange. And that data now comes directly into Amazon Web Services. And so our entire platform sits on AWS, which gives us the level of speed and scalability that we never had before with a co-location site. There is some really tremendous improvements in speed. And this is before we have full point-to-point integration from tote files. So we have a number of totes that are providing directly. We have our last tote that's just going through the migration process now, and we've achieved some incredible speed. The Kentucky Derby, the single event Kentucky Derby, not all the special events, but over $151 million that we were able to database in 5 minutes and 6 seconds, which was a tremendous test of 54 different tote sources to get all that information databased and in the position to query by regulators and operators in just over 5 minutes time. So that gives us the type of scale that we can see for an AWS hosting of the security platform. Inside our team at TRPB have developed a number of QuickSight dashboards for business intelligence. And again, there's some tremendous ability to expand our scope for analysis and instant analysis of information based on what we see now. So we're very excited about all the initiatives that we can do internally. So right now there's a requirement for any tote betting into a North American pool that we have a client racetrack or a client regulator to provide the transaction and settlement data directly to AWS. All three major North American-based tote providers, and of course, all those tote providers are international in scope, are also developing their own cloud services and high frequency transaction ability. Obviously, Global Tote has an AWS platform for their tote. I think they're have finished their migration to that, and we'll see the benefit. AmTote is quickly developing its own cloud tote service, and obviously United Tote with their scope and scale, as you can see by as we see by the Kentucky Derby every year, and especially this year with record handles, has a scale that is international in scope. There's also the initiative by each of the 3 tow companies and in combination with Las Vegas Dissemination Service to integrate Tote with online sports books. And that's taking a fairly large amount of effort and lift right now. And also because of those online sports books and the demand for product, we continue to see Tote integrating into various pools around the world. Okay, let's talk just briefly about the World Pool Initiative. And Canadian US associations really have been the center of commingling efforts and have been promoting commingling. And in every chance that North American associations have had has been pushing commingling internationally. Obviously, commingled pools address regional inequities and odds. And I think of the example of Deep Impact in the Arc de Triomphe and what the tremendous amount of betting did. And and we can see the greater international associations involvement in commingled pools can have some better betting opportunities for everyone involved. Also, commingled pool, a single commingled pool eliminates the requirement of arbitrage between tow pools on the same event. And so those kind of distractions aren't apparent when we have a single world pool. And making a statement for parimutuels, the ability to have a betting event that's unparalleled in horse racing by any other operator. The strong market presence is a tremendous ability. So let's talk more about the concerns from a security side. Current World Pool initiatives, the guiding principle of host and control may be weakened. And we're not familiar with the experience we see now with Ascot and others to know what host and control represents in those situations. But we know that for participation by North America, that host and control principle must be paramount, that the race host and the regulator must be in control of the event. We're also not seeing constant participation by international players to improve ITSP. There's, again, the current World Pool Initiative is using versions of ITSP that are 20 years old. And lots of recent versions give us the type of benefits and security in developments. You wouldn't use software that's 20 years old. We wouldn't use standards that are 20 years old. And here we are using a version of ITSP that's 20 years old. Some of the developments we've had in the past 20 years, auto close of pools at 0 minutes to post in the event of a communication break at 6 seconds. Moving to 10-second odds updates is critical at 2 minutes to post. Moving to closing betting, having a 5-second odds update after the closure of betting is critical, and disseminating those odds. And the list goes on. ITSP 7 gives the ability for the host to send odds and probables direct without having to send every remote tote system a matrix to generate their own. So there's lots of benefits for successive versions of ITSP that we don't see adopted by the current World Pool. There's also a concern that right now there's one single tote company, and while that tote company is not international scope, because they are, and that's great, but there's others just as capable and have the ability and scale of hosting a World Pool. Certainly, Global has assisted Global Tote, Sportech, their name before being Global, assisted in Ascot. and assisted in events that had runners that exceeded the current outside limit of the host. As we see, United Tote, with the scale that they have in the Kentucky Derby, could well host whirlpools, and certainly Tote, with their tote based in their new cloud development, is more than capable of hosting a whirlpool. So we've sacrificed going to a single host for the purposes of liquidity, and that shouldn't be the only criteria. It's an important criteria, and the market's important, but we shouldn't rely just on one tote, as there are others capable. There's certainly capable organizations throughout the world. So, well, that's it in terms of a very quick rendition of what we're doing for integration and security. What I'll do is stop sharing the slides and open things up for any questions.
Yeah, many thanks, Curtis, for this interesting informations. I'm sure that there will come several questions. For sure, I'm convinced that our friends in Hong Kong are working on further developments of their technical systems. And a question to you: are you already in contact with other organizations outside the USA?
Yeah, definitely. In the International Tote Protocols group, we have much the same membership that you see in the World Tote Association, and that is more geared towards developers and development. And again, that's the latest round of ITSPs, not the only thing that the World Tote Protocols can work on, but it certainly has been the major project, is bringing forth a final publication of ITSP 7.
Okay, I'm quite convinced that there will come further questions. We will raise them to you, if not during the show, then later on in written format, and you will please send us your answers, and we will add them to the minutes of the webinar today. We go now to London, calling London, going on with our second expert, Tallulah Wilson from the UK Tote. Tallulah is the head of international partnerships and international business development at the UK Tote. She joined the company in 2018. Tallulah, we are all listening to you.
Hi there. Actually, funny enough, I have a question for Curtis, because I think it's an interesting point you made around what the committee that you sit on are looking at. And I think actually one of the interesting things that WoTA should be looking at doing is, I think, when we're developing new protocols and looking at what those new protocols do, I think there should definitely be an input, or a more substantial input, from the business ends of the World Tote Associations. For instance, they're very heavily developer and tech-led, but actually, should that be the case where you're developing something for totes who are going out and selling products? And I think it's something that we could work on together, of the World Tote Association and your committee, because you're a bit chicken and egg otherwise. So we've got to make sure the requirements from the business side of tote operators and the product sides are driving those protocol developments. Would you see that as something that could be progressed in the future?
Well, I see that as something actually included in the committee to date. We have, we don't shut the door and say business people aren't allowed in the room, because they certainly are. Every organization has business people who attend. In fact, we tend to see a heavier weighting of business people. Lots of organizations either don't send developers or are resistant to send developers. They keep them back in their labs and their offices. And so we have to encourage those organizations to actually send their developers and have their developers participate. So there is certainly a lot of business considerations, and there's business people from every organization, and that's valid. It's because the business drives the development, the business has to derive the development. So I appreciate your point on that, and I think that that's something that every organization is sensitized to, because if there isn't a business case, you can't justify the development.
I think it could be an interesting one for our new co-chairs of Alex and Hasse to kind of have as a standing item on the WoTA agenda, perhaps, to make sure we're getting those updates from what your committee are looking at.
Yeah, and I think just last week, Florence said that she's going to attend this year. It's been a number of years that she's been able to attend the Racing Industry Symposium in Tucson. We have an in-person meeting every year. In between those meetings, we have a variety of different work sites that are done online, and a variety of different meetings that occur as we do development. But yes, definitely everyone from the World Tote Association is welcome. And certainly we would encourage the participation, because the whole idea of a commingled pool is to have everyone who wants to participate to get their requirements in the next version of protocol.
Okay, thank you for that, Tallulah. I think we start now with your presentation.
So, good morning, everyone. I've been asked to kind of give everyone a sort of an overview and an update on Whirlpool and where it has come from in the last 4 years, and kind of where it's potentially going, and reflecting on 2022 and where we've got to this year. It's a collaboration between Global Totes and Hong Kong Jockey Club. The UK Tote Group has been kind of heavily involved from the start with our partner racecourses. Ascot was the first racecourse to participate, and it was very much launched as a trial basis to see what could be done in effectively giving a new identity to commingling for parimutuel betting. I think we're all very conscious that, you know, we often are kind of using words such as commingling, such as parimutuel betting, which aren't getting across to the customer. And Whirlpool was very much built upon this ethos of bringing the Hong Kong Jockey Club market into commingling, and then also giving commingling a better identity to talk about, and to really excite the fans of horse racing. As a kind of overview of the process that's in place, so effectively how a Whirlpool event in its current format is chosen, and it's, you know, this is very much driven by the Hong Kong Jockey Club, who are the hosts of Whirlpool Initiative. But to give everyone a bit of insight in case they don't have that background, there's a limited number of days that Hong Kong are able to show international racing. In order to kind of get permission granted for that, it's a government request. And with that request, there's a number of requirements that the Hong Kong Jockey Club has around those races, primarily that it's the IFHA Top 100 Group 1 races that fall into that category initially. So it's really about showcasing the sport globally at its very, very best. You know, we all commingle every single day, and there's a lot of racing that gets sent around the world, but this is trying to transition to a new audience and trying to really showcase pool betting on a higher level, which is why it's targeted at those top 100 IFHA races. For example, with us, once those races are confirmed, we work with our partner racecourses here in the UK and with Hong Kong to help coordinate, market and facilitate the events. So it's a sort of year-round process. Our first UK event starts in April, but when our last event happens in October, we usually start planning for the next year. So we wrapped up at British Champions Day this year, and a week later got stuck into looking at next year and how we can improve it and how we can work with our international partners who also participate in Whirlpool, the team in South Africa, in Dubai, and then hopefully in other countries as Hong Kong sees those days expand. So for us at the UK Tote and at British and Irish Racing, the real impacts of Whirlpool is that increased awareness of pool betting. We are in a market where pari-mutuel betting is not a monopoly. Our market share against fixed odds is very small, and we need to do as much as we can to grow pool betting. So it's a real opportunity to highlight, you know, what pool betting can be. It's transitioning from talking about you know, liquidity and dividends and commingling to giving it an identity of its, you know, like a global lottery with lots of people betting in, such as the Euro Millions is how we try to talk to it, our customers. And it also shines a light on our participants in the sport and is really critical in generating revenue via betting and increased media rights sales for our race courses and the grassroots of the sports. It's a key initiative that the whole industry gets behind here in the UK. The race courses work very hard. We were very lucky to have 17 Whirlpool days this year, and the kind of effort of showcasing those and showcasing Whirlpool, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and then also when there's international Whirlpools, or what we term international Whirlpools, showcasing those and their global racing. So it's a true opportunity for us to, you know, bring the next level of pari-mutuel betting to our customers. Here are just a few of the numbers. So there are 21 race days in total for Whirlpool in 2022 across different continents, 154 races. The turnover was significant, the 650 million, which is an amazing result for Whirlpool. Participating countries, you know, 26 countries participating, and getting that message out to totes across the globe and their customers, which is one of the key focuses, has been fantastic. Here in the UK, we had growth of 44%, which was brilliant. We had 78,000 digital customers, so just via our website, really engaging with specifically Whirlpool, which was a great achievement for us, having not kind of long established a digital presence. And then with all that comes the ability and the stability of running a Whirlpool operationally. I think it's really key following from what Curtis said about, you know, security, integrity, and the technical ability. I think Whirlpool showcases that. We work very hard with regulators around the world to make sure that they're comfortable. Here in the UK, we work very closely with the Gambling Commission, our regulation body. We have kind of over the years had conversations with a number of US regulating bodies so that you can understand, you know, commingling and what Whirlpool is about. I think we're all, with our regulators, you know, tirelessly work on that education piece, and Whirlpool really gives a positive benefit to show what global commingling can do. And I think those numbers speak for themselves on that. Just kind of going into some of the Whirlpool initiatives that we looked at and that we did here in the UK. In addition to the revenue and the media rights that go to the sport, we also ran a Whirlpool Moment of the Year and Day initiative. It was a collaboration between our media rights companies, Racecourse Media Group, and At the Races, as well as Hong Kong Jockey Club and ourselves, which was to find a way that we could really get down to the grassroots of the sport. How could we make Whirlpool matter to them? And how could we, you know, impact the individuals in the sport behind the horses? I think it's a very important strategy for Whirlpool itself. It's something we're really keen to do and that we know Hong Kong are, which is, you know, it's not just about the betting, it's about how we can sustain horse racing globally for many years. And we had this prize pot of £50,000, which is fantastic. And for each Whirlpool day we held in the UK, a moment of the day was chosen, and that wasn't necessarily the winning horse of the big race. It could have been an extraordinary reaction from the owners of a horse celebrating. It could have been, you know, a fantastic turn of foot for a horse who then didn't necessarily win, but outperformed what their rating was. But it really made a difference. The £1,000 each day went to the racing staff member, and that's a significant amount of money for someone working in horse racing here in the UK to receive, and it really got fantastic traction across the sport. That all culminated in a moment of the year where our moments of the day all went up against each other. We did a public vote, further kind of generating interest in Whirlpool just across all sections of the industry. All the yards participating got behind it and helped spread the word. And then there was an end of the year prize, which was 34,000 that went to the winning yard, which was then divided out across every member of staff working out their yard. And again, it's a big difference in terms of those yard staff receiving that money and really kind of having that connection to Whirlpool, that it's not just about you know, our customers betting, it's also about them providing this showcase of the sport. So some of the other stuff we also did was a launch event, trying to get, you know, that message about why Whirlpool is good for the sport through to the owners and the trainers. So we held that at the beginning of the year. It was a great way for us to speak one-on-one with trainers and owners, for them to really understand what Whirlpool is all about, and why it benefits them, and why it's important for them to, you know, to enter and declare horses for these races. You know, we're all very conscious of the magic numbers of, you know, over 9 horses here in the UK in races is really what makes the difference when it comes to revenue back to the sport via betting. We also had initiatives of sending out a bottle of champagne to all owners who entered a horse. So those extra touches that we were really keen on doing, how we could kind of get through to those key participants in the sport. So what's coming up? It's the big question. We are awaiting confirmation from our partners over at Hong Kong Jockey Club around the Whirlpool schedule for next year. They're working very hard to make it bigger and better again, and we're working with them as how we can grow it. We're working closely with our race courses. How can we maximise that on-course turnover? How can we make Whirlpool here in the UK resonate with customers? As I said, we're, you know, up against a very popular fixed odds market, but there's a lot of benefit that comes with Whirlpool to those customers, and it's about that messaging and getting it out to them. How can we expand Whirlpool Moment of the Year? You know, how can we make that maybe a global initiative, working with our partners in South Africa, in Dubai and other countries that might get added to the schedule? It's something that can connect all the Whirlpools together. I think it's something that can really showcase, again, pari-mutuel betting on a global stage, which benefits everybody. And then again, working on those coordinated marketing and exposure for Whirlpool. So there's lots to come. We're very excited about what, you know, Whirlpool can lead to. It's an ever improving initiative, and we try and kind of enhance it each year and, you know, perfect items that might not have gone so well. But I think for the sport as a whole, as a way to showcase commingling and, you know, encourage other countries who aren't necessarily commingling and running, you know, B pools, as we've termed them, sort of domestically and locally on international racing, to come into commingling. It's a very good initiative to do that. So that's where we're at. And then hopefully in the next few months, there'll be an update on the schedule for next year.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tallulah. The first questions is a number of events in the world pool. The number of events has grown year by year when we look from the start. It used to be limited by law in Hong Kong to 37 events. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a change in plan? I heard that the guys in Hong Kong are discussing with regulator to increase. They are working very careful, which I understand, and which is also necessary if you work with regulators. Did you hear anything new about the number of events for the coming years?
So I think, as Michael Fitzsimmons said at the World Tote Association forum that we had in October here in London, they've submitted to the government to look at increasing events. It's something that they have to wait for that feedback on. It's very much, as you said, regulated in law in Hong Kong. So hopefully it will increase. I think there is anticipation that it should do. I think by the end of December, early 2023, we should be hearing what that new schedule could be.
Okay, thanks for that. The bet types in the World Pool are per today: win, place, exacta, quinella, swinger, which means 2 out of 3, trifecta, and a pick 3. Is there a plan for further bet types?
Yeah, very much so. We're working with the Hong Kong Jockey Club on their new protocol that Michael again spoke about at the World Tote Association Forum. It will enable further bet types to be added into World Pool. It will also enable opportunity for outbound and inbound commingling into Hong Kong in the next 2-3 years, which is very positive. So I think where everyone is trying to get to is ensuring that if we're adding new bet types to World Pool, they're bet types that can be consumed globally by all. I know that the team in South Africa are working very hard to expand to the full suite of World Pool bet types. Likewise, the other countries that come on board, I think it's making sure we all move at a pace with adding new ones where everybody can keep up and make sure that it's consistent, so that when we're marketing to customers, what they're getting is a consistent experience that they can relate to when it comes to World Pool around the globe.
Okay. You talked about Euro Millions. If we want to compete with Euro Millions, and we should do that, we need a big bet, something like a global bet. Is there any discussion about this?
I think it's something I know that WoTA has spoken about before. I think a big bet, a global bet, is one that kind of goes around in circles, doesn't it? Everyone, can we do it? Can't we do it? I think actually, if we take a step back and look at what a global bet is trying to achieve, that is the global commingling. The more bet types everyone around the world can commingle on, that's a global bet. We don't necessarily need a bet that transitions necessarily between countries to get the same outcome and achievement. So I think at the moment it's about expanding the countries playing in World Pool, getting more countries involved who aren't necessarily, part of the global commingling scene, and then seeing where we get to with that.
I'm keen to hear the next discussions inside the WoTA forum and the General Assembly on that. Last question: the countries which are involved in the World Pool as hosting the races are UK, Ireland, South Africa, and Dubai. Is there any discussion about further countries to be involved?
I believe that Hong Kong are definitely looking at it. I think, as I said, they're trying to look at that IFHA top 100 list and see what races fall into the correct categories, where they can fit in the schedule. Hong Kong has their own domestic racing that runs, and so it's all about looking to see what fits, but I'm sure they're looking to expand it.
We come back to that point later on, maybe. Many thanks, Tallulah, for those very, very interesting informations and for your contributions. We move now to north of Europe and call Sweden. Petter Johansson and Ylva Svensson from ATG. Petter is since more than 13 years in the industry. He has a background as a racing manager, and he is in the position of betting manager objects inside ATG. Ylva is the director of international business in ATG since several years now. She came to ATG in 2017. And everybody around the world who wishes to import Swedish races talks with Ylva and her team. Peter, we begin with you, ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Hubert, and thank you, Tallulah and Curtis, for good presentations. Maybe Elitloppet will be the first World Pool on trolling. I cross my fingers for that and hope we can figure that out in WoTA. I'm going to talk about V75, the largest weekly poll bet in horse betting. And after me, Ylva will present the international part of it. First of all, every week I watch trotting on Saturdays. It becomes my company. It is not as empty and sad when V75 is on. This is a quote from Ulla Lindblom, 87 years old. So I think it's beautiful that we can be a company in the home in Sweden and the Nordic countries. Yeah, the Saturdays then, how is like the day or our bet types or product portfolio is up to date. As you see, we have 12 races on the Saturdays, and you can call this the ATG's campfire because it's a whole day and it's a lot of races that you can bet on. And as you see, we have a lot of V races, that multi-leg races in Sweden and the Nordic is very, very popular. So we have V4 and then we have V75. There is the biggest race or the biggest pool bet that we have. And it starts at the 16:20 on Saturdays every day the year. So all the single leg bet types as well as win plays, quinella, exacta, and trifecta. If we move on then, why do you think that the V75 is so popular then? Yeah, you can say all are included in or on V75. All horses. In Sweden then we have 5 different classifications for horses. We have Division 2, Division 1, Bronze, Silver, and Gold. And this is horses that have earnings from 100,000 Swedish crowns up to several million Swedish crowns. And in each category, you take the next step to the next category and so on. So you can start with a little at 100,000 crowns on your horse, and you're starting in this lower class, Division 2, and then you win Division 2, you move up to Division 1, and so forth. And this is like a staircase, you can say. You're moving up the ladder all the way, and that's why we creating sports stars, because the customers and all the audience learn to appreciate the horses and learn to see the horses good and bad. So you can say it's creating sports stars both on 2 legs and 4 legs then. And you can also say that all tracks are included. Up north in Sweden we have a track called WoTA, and down south in Sweden we have Jägersro, and all of those tracks are included in V75. So if V75 is on Solvalla, and Jägersro audience and the customers down there know that, okay, V75 is soon on our track, and on that case they'll get more and more included in V75 as a package, and it's really, really good for us. We also have 2 Nordic tracks. It's 2 Norwegian tracks that we use on Saturdays. It's Momarken and Bjerke. So totally it's 23 tracks that hosting V75, these 52 V75s on Saturdays every year. And I said that all are included. That means all customers as well. We have a large customer base on ATG. We have a great variation on age, gender, and of course a level of turnover. And we think that's make V75 great. I'm going to present a little bit about the pools and where the turnover come from. You can say that healthy pools and wide player base is a key thing. And as you see, 47% is what we can call package bets. we have a computer bet or product called Harry Boy that you can bet, and the computer take out the row for you, the system. And then we have like shares, or you can call it sometimes syndicate betting. So you can buy a share from a betting shop, or from a guy that put out it on atg.se on the internet, and you can buy your share and you can share it together with your business partners and your co-workers and so forth. And 36 of the turnover come from own systems or own bets that you create in your own system and put in. And 9% on V75 is international, and 8% is what we call batch bet, that you make a huge bet, or small bet as well, but you use it through batch or file betting. As you see, then 47% come from package bets, and we think that it's really, really important to keep like a healthy pool for V75. And we'll also have like 5, I can say, points that is really important to rely on to keep it a healthy pool. We have no rebates or rakebacks. We have a limited number of systems, so you only can put in up to 5,000 systems. So you can't play too many different systems. So you can say on that thing you take out as well, like the statistically generated systems or the computer generated system when it's going to be too large. So you can say that like the professional system is out of the pool. And we have a wide customer base that is really important to keep healthy pools. And as I said before, high turnover from package bets. And the smaller graph down to the right is our customers in 2022, and how many of them have been playing the different bet types, you can say. So 51% of our total customer base have tried share bets or syndicate betting. 73% have tried Harry Boy bets, and 36% have tried own or regular bets. So you can see that Harry Boy is really, really popular, and share bets as well. And this is on V75. So we have over 1 million customers a year that are playing on V75, and we have over 400,000 customers every week that are in the pool and playing on V75. This is important for V75, and I think this is one of the biggest strengths since 1993 that we started V75, is that we can show it or broadcast it on national TV. TV4 and TV12 is together, they are the biggest ground network, you can say, or channel in Sweden. So we have a lot of hours on the broadcast, which is really, really important. So totally we have 460,000 viewers every Saturdays, and the viewers can be on different platforms. So they can watch on atg.se, and they can watch on TV4 and TV12 and so forth. So they be double counted, you can say, but over 460,000 is some point of watching V75 on Saturdays. And the whole program is 4.5 hours, and it's like a live broadcast in Swedish #1 TV channel, TV4 and TV12. And we can present this every Saturday to our customers, which is really, really, really good. And now it's like a bragging slide, you can say. I want to show the top 5 winning. Winnings, 67 highest win at Axvalla 2010, and you can see we have a lot of wins that is over 4 million euros. The highest turnover was 2018 at Eskilstuna, so it's 3 years ago, and there was over 20 million euros in turnover, so 201.4 million Swedish crown turnover. So that was a really popular Saturday, and it was a good day for ATG. Yeah, to sum it up then, what makes V75 as great as it is? First of all, we have to mention the pool size. To create the pool size, we needed a high number of customers, which we have. We think that the live broadcast that we have in TV4 and TV12 is unique. You can't see that anywhere in the world, and it's really good that we can come out to all Swedish households and show a 4.5-hour live broadcast every Saturday. And we keep it on Saturdays. Saturday is the high point and the campfire, as we call it before. It's nationwide, as I talked, up from north down to south, and in that particularly it's going to be like the whole Swedish playing or the bet type then. And V75 creates sports stars. You can say you grow with the sports stars in V75, and it's creating stars. So it's really good. And we have some international interest as well. So that's V75 for us.
Thank you. Before we continue with Ylva, just a short point. You mentioned 460,000 visitors every Saturday on TV. It's important to understand this is already a big number, but it is important to understand that this is nearly 5% of the whole population of Sweden, where you have 10 million.
Exactly.
So it's a lot. And my question concerning the V75 and the Harry Boy is, how often does Harry Boy win the V75?
Oh, it depends on, you can say, how hard it is, the outcome.
Sure.
But usually the Harry Boy is you can say we have 65% of the turnover goes back to the punters, and Harry Boy is pretty close to that. Some years really good, and some years not as good. It depends on the outcome on the race, you can say.
But it is correct to say that Harry Boy has already been winning the V75.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important for us, and you can say that the brand is one of the most, you can say, common or brands for betting in Sweden. So Harry Boy is second to V75. So Harry Boy is huge.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And we continue with Ylva.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I will keep it short. We are out of time, but a short view on the international part of V75 and also what we're trying to do at the moment in order to spread the word about V-bets. As you understand, we have some challenges outside of the Nordics since it's trotting, and also this multi-leg with several races, which is not as common outside of the Nordics. Here is a picture where I try to summarize horse racing around the world and different betting behaviors, where we in Sweden, Norway, also in Hong Kong, we really love to bet on several races, whereas like France and other US, etc., you prefer one race. So this is a challenge in order to really sell V75 outside of the Nordics. Also, if you look at the turnover on Swedish races, our export business, the V-bets are overall very popular in Norway, Finland, and Sweden. And outside is the simple bets. So that's why, as you saw, it was only 9% of the total pool who comes from international commingling. We, of course, wish this to be much bigger in the future. So we have a new way of thinking a little bit. This is something which we started with more seriously during COVID, when we had a lack of content. When we import races from foreign, like France, we import a number of races, of course. We always have and host our own bee pool. Usually it's a V4. And during COVID, we invited first of all, our Nordic neighbors in order to help them to get additional content available. So ATG hosts a B4, but it's on foreign races. It's not Swedish racing. The takeout is 25%, so it's a rather high margin product. And it was a good way to add liquidity to make it a much more interesting product for our customers and also for our neighbors. Of course, we need approval from the rights holders to hoping that this actually can make VBETs more interesting for customers outside the Nordic region, since it's a racing that these customers are familiar to instead of just Swedish harness. So it's hosted by ATG. We have additional liquidity from Finland, Norway, Denmark. We can have both simple bet types where we have ITSP, and we also have synchronized betting for the VBETs, the V4. So this is actually turning to be a rather big success now for the French winter meeting. We have a lot of racing from US, both trotting and gallop. Australian racing, Dutch racing, also Dubai. So the next step for us is to invite additional partners to, if interesting, to also bet on our B pool B4. So for this winter meeting, we really hope that we will have a partner from Germany and a Belgian partner participating in our B pool. So as I said, might this be a clue to introduce this quite a Nordic way of betting to other countries? So to summary, I think V75 and other VBETs has a great global potential. It's a high margin product. It's actually life-changing winnings for customers. They're all offered by synchronized bets. And as we speak, we are heavily investing in new technology. Curtis, you were talking about ITSP. We are currently on the version 5.18, but we really wish to have the version 7 as well here in Sweden. And because we're changing our betting system. And we're very interested in the more modern commingling protocols that are in the making. And every region is unique. You have to accept that and try to work around that in order to really push for international commingling. So that's what I had.
Thank you, Ylva. Thank you, Petter. I have a special question. You know that I'm a big fan of the V75 and also of the global bet. But can you imagine to make a test with a V75, let's say on a Wednesday afternoon, with 7 races, 2 maybe from Sweden, 2 from UK, and 3 from Hong Kong? You know that is my crazy idea and my hope. But can you imagine that? Maybe you have to talk to Hasse about it. But this could be an idea.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it before. So the idea is crazy, and you have to talk about it, and you have to try stuff to get through and get further. Today we have our next biggest bet, V86, sharing with Bjerke in Norway. So we have 4 races from Bjerke in Norway and 4 races at Solvalla in Sweden. So we are experiencing that in V86 Express. So I can say it's not there yet, but maybe in the future we will get there. You never know.
Yeah, thank you. I don't stop dreaming.
That's good. That's good.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I would like to say many thanks to the 4 speakers and also a great thanks to all participants. Have a good day in America, Africa, and Europe, and a good night in Asia and Australia. Thank you to everyone. See you next year.